Will President Muhammadu Buhari defeat Nigeria's corruption scourge? How is the recent fuel crisis likely to impact his first days in office? Will President Buhari's military background help eradicate the Boko Haram insurgency? And is President Buhari likely to solve Nigeria's north-south religious divide? What time is it? It's question time. Hello and welcome to the show. My name is Mpho Tsedu. 72-year-old retired General Muhammadu Buhari has recently, or rather was recently sworn in as Nigeria's president, taking over from Goodluck Jonathan, who had been in office since 2010. President Buhari is the first opposition leader to win a presidential election in Nigeria since independence in 1960. Regarded by many as hands-on and incorruptible, he acknowledged a struggling economy, corruption, electricity, and fuel shortages as key challenges currently facing the country. He also reiterated that Boko Haram could not be said to be defeated without rescuing the over 200 Chibok schoolgirls kidnapped by the militant Islamist group in April 2014. But given his military background, will President Buhari uphold democracy in Africa's most populous country? A reminder that this is a live program, and therefore you can call us and air your views on the following numbers. If you're calling from within South Africa, 089-110-4210. If you're calling us from outside the borders of South Africa, 0027-89-110-4210. The numbers are on the screen. My guest today, Israel Mkhize, who is a political economy analyst, and Emeka Franklin, who is from Nigeria, Union, South Africa, NUSA. Gentlemen, welcome to the show. Kawazen,
yes, ma'am.
You are looking at it from the southern tip of the continent.
Yes.
The president doesn't have the best of histories in as far as governance is concerned. He is a former dictator himself. He overthrew a sitting government. Comes in, he acknowledges that there are problems, campaigned on change. Is he the right person to really take Nigeria out of the crisis that it has been facing?
Well, I think Buhari is a good person and is the right person. First, we need to be cognizant that African political landscape is overshadowed and somehow sadly designed around the post-Cold War narrative, which often seeks to define the African continent or any regional space within the geopolitics within the notion of superpowers. So Buhari comes, he's got the background in the military, and he's also served within the oil space. And you remember that the Nigerian politics, about 75% of its government revenue comes from the oil space. Yeah. So with the pressing issues in Nigeria, such as the security question up there in west Nigeria with the Boko Haram, with a caliber of a head of state who understands the fundamental dynamics of military and militia politics, so he is very good there. And again, if you look at his speech, you see that he's a man who is very admitting the goods that he would inherit from Jonathan, where obviously we know the economic situation. Perhaps from 2011 and 2014, the economy did very well in Nigeria as far as I mean, the barrel of oil was selling at 100 rands, but after that, it dropped down to 50, up to 60. So he's aware of the economic, and he admits it on his speech. Yes.
The president comes in and, like Kawazela is saying here, that he acknowledges the challenges that he's facing, but there's no fuel. Electricity is a problem. Boko Haram itself is a problem, but above all, corruption. These are probably the four main challenges which he really has to face head on. Talk to me about that.
Good evening, viewers. Firstly, Nigerian Union South Africa, being the apex organization of all Nigerians in South Africa, we wish to use this opportunity again to congratulate His Excellency, President Muhammadu Buhari, on his assumption of office as the President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. We know that the challenges are enormous, but we are very confident, like having started so well. If you had listened to his inaugural speech, like you outlined, he mentioned most of those challenges which Nigerians are facing. And we believe very much that with his experience as a former head of state of Federal Republic of Nigeria, that he is well equipped. And with the support that he has gained from the international community and most people, we are very confident that most of these challenges that he is going to address them squarely.
Now, how many people are in Nigeria?
As of the last count, our official population census, the figure was 180 million persons.
Now, in a country where there are 180 million people, but less than 30 million vote, why would you consider that person popular?
The fact is that Nigerians have spoken. It was an election.
30 million, less than 30 million Nigerians have spoken, and there's still 150 million people who have not said a word.
If you can recall vividly, this election was firstly postponed from 14th of February to subsequent date of 1st April. And we had these challenges of the electoral materials not being adequately distributed. And that was, and also the issue of security, the insurgency of the Boko Haram. Yeah. These were one of the, some of the reasons why the elections were postponed. Now, let's take a situation where, at that point, the second postponement, the electoral materials, because even the day of the election, there were a lot of challenges the voters were facing. So we still think Nigeria has done very well as democracy is a starting point, and we know that from here we can always get it better and better.
Hold the thought there. You're a patriotic Nigerian, I see. We're going to take a quick break. When we return, we'll be taking your calls, 089-110-4210. And if you're calling us from outside the borders, actually from Nigeria itself, 00278911042110. We want to hear from you. This is Question Time. Welcome back. You're still watching Question Time. Our guest today, Israel Mkize, is a political economy analyst, and Emeka Franklin represents NUSA, that's Nigeria Union South Africa. Gentlemen, welcome back. And the number to dial once again, 089-110-4210 if you're in South Africa, and if you're outside the borders, 002789-110-4210. Now, what do you expect Nigeria's role to be in the region?
Nigeria, we are being referred to as the giant of Africa, as the most populous black nation in the world. We have believed that with the assumption of office of President Buhari, Muhammadu Buhari, that Nigeria will find its feet and its position, the rightful position that it should have amongst the Committee of Nations. We believe that experience counts in everything, and Muhammadu Buhari, having had an experience as a former head of state, I would believe that he has all it takes, and considering the fact that he's a disciplinarian, we believe that he has all it takes to bring back Nigeria.
But what do you mean by he's a disciplinarian? Because this is a former military ruler whose record, like I said, was very bad. He suppressed the media. He suppressed the opposition.
Well, it depends on the angle you're looking at it, because what we had then, as a disciplinarian, we had war against indiscipline. Okay. And our people, as of then, and even now, we needed to be disciplined. Okay. And we don't really look at it as something bad. Coming to the issue of media, it's a different ballgame, because it was a military rule then. But a situation, what he was able to achieve then was to make Nigerians queue up in bus stations, in taxi stations. If you want to buy petrol, you have to queue up, unlike what we had before he came in. So that's why how we refer to him as a disciplinarian, because of the program that he brought on board.
Okay, we're going to talk about the economy shortly. Fanny, you're calling us from Polokwane.
Yes, sir. How are you?
We're doing well. Thanks for the call.
Thank you very much. You know what, at this point in time, I think that Nigeria and South Africa, they were supposed to be working together at the moment. South Africa with its advanced economy, and then Nigeria, if that country has got that potential to become the third largest economy by 2050, that country has got that potential. I think that the problem with African countries, we operate separately. So therefore, South Africa with its advanced economy, it was supposed to be working together with Nigeria. At the moment, like, South African companies are doing great in MTN, for example, and MultiChoice are doing great in Nigeria. I think that we were supposed to be taking it from there. I think, yeah, this is the way to go, rather than criticizing. Thank you.
Okay. What can you say in as far as... Yeah.
Right. Well, first we have to acknowledge that there are bilateral agreements between South Africa and Nigeria. You may recall that between the 2nd and the 6th of June, December 2013, the Deputy Minister of DTI in South Africa led a team of 40 delegates. They went to Nigeria. They had a few agreements there where they were consolidating trade relations on the question of exchanging renewable energy, the mining sector, and seeing what they can explore on the natural endowments. But as I said, we are talking about the political economy, which rides on the question of self-interest within the states.
Yes.
The biggest self-interest of states is the question of hegemony, because hegemony is a contested notion. Everybody would like to be a superpower. As I said earlier, that the narrative of the post-Cold War, who is the superpower? Now, with South Africa and Nigeria in this question, we have seen a tit-for-tat relation recently. We had a very nice build-up, good relationship between the former President Mbeki and Olubasanjo, who recently have condemned the xenophobic attacks. But what has happened is, you must remember that when we are saying that Nigeria is a superpower, down in the south, South Africa has a strategic relationship within BRICS. What is Nigeria's interest in that light? Number two, there is a question of the permanent United Nations security seat.
Yes. Who takes the seat?
Who takes the seat between the so-called superpowers of Africa? Number three, there is a question of the AU. We've deployed South Africa out of democratic processes, the chair of AU, so there is an enormous influence there. And in the ECOWAS, Economic Community of Western African Countries, Nigeria is dominating there, South Africa. But again, you find that these are not extreme and exclusive hegemonies, as you would probably say, of America and China in Asia, where there is an out-and-out domination of the economy. Usually, it's specific, actually collaborated lead on the economy within that particular region.
Okay.
Yeah.
1.5 million people are said to be homeless in Nigeria or unemployed. 80% of the youth are said to be unemployed. That's a time bomb.
Right. Okay. Well, I don't know if you had listened to the inaugural speech of President Muhammadu Buhari. If you had listened, you will understand very well that he's a very good roadmap for the recovery of Nigeria population. Because he was able to, you could see a president that is on the ground, that is able to appreciate the fact that these are challenges that were being faced. And it started fairly well by declaring, making public his assets as stipulated by the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, unlike most of his predecessors. Also, he did abolish the office of the First Lady, which is not constitutional. And he has promised us that most of these challenges, he is going to tackle them head on. So what Isaac has referred to as regards the Nigerian-South African relationship, we are confident that Muhammadu Buhari, president, being a former leader, having walked that terrain, will definitely have to ensure that the relationship between the both countries will be consolidated for a better future.
But, you know, before you cross the borders, government has had to borrow money to pay employees. Things are very bad in Nigeria.
Well, things are bad, but not as bad as it's been painted in the media. Actually, we're talking about a lot of people that are still living there, and we've not had a lot of people dying at a point like that. Yeah, things are bad because of there has been series of challenges that
and money being stolen by government officials.
Previous governments, there were a lot of challenges that they were faced with. That is especially on the issue of corruption.
Yes.
What we pray for, and we know definitely that President Muhammadu Buhari, being a disciplinarian, is going to ensure that Nigeria becomes a corrupt-free society because we know his history, his records of tackling issues like that.
Okay. So, just hold the thought. Let's take a call from Botswana. Bikon Balela.
Okay. Hello, how are you?
We're doing well. Thanks for the call, Bikon.
Hello?
Yes, we can hear you very well. Go ahead.
Okay. Actually, I want to say we first thank the democratic transition of the government in Nigeria. And we are hopeful that looking at his, you know, he has just started his leadership, but there is little that he has made. He has reached in a short space of time, like looking at the issue of the girls.
Okay.
We have to thank him for so much.
Okay.
And we're hopeful that there is a lot that he is heading to and he is going to achieve.
Okay, thank you very much, Beken, right there in Botswana. I think, well, that's one of the things. Security is quite one of the burning issues. But the Niger Delta amnesty expires this year.
Yes. Let me come in on the economic question and touch on that.
Yeah.
I don't think we are using a correct approach to overemphasize the so-called stealing of money without looking at the quantifications of that. Within the first 100 days, what would be expected of Buhari so that it doesn't fall in the trap that the Indian leader fell on, to have a manifesto that hyperflates society but does not dwell much on the details. What happened between 2011 and 2014 with the booming in the oil industry was that there was no saving. Number two, there was no reinvestment. Number three, the question of capitalizing the economy, particularly where it has shown potential. Now, what has been advised to Buhari, actually there's a phrase that's being used currently which is called Buharinomics, because it is seen that in his first 100 days or so, he must quickly express an economic direction. Hence, the key appointments that have been advised that he must look carefully to is the finance minister, the deputy finance, and also, although the governor of the Reserve Bank has only served, I think, 1 year of his 5-year term, he must also have a conversation there, because there has to be there is a lot of wealth and economy potential within Nigeria, but to take that economic potential and let it talk to the political space, hence my emphasis of this conversation between political economy. Now, you will realize when you look at Buhari's inaugural speech, how he articulates his desire to work with the international community. We know that they've got good trade relations with America, China, and India, so which would be the people who source more of the oil that is needed, that is produced there in. So you'd have to look at making sure that he makes concessions and economic agreements that will favor the very economy, because one of the things that's being said is that he must trace the financial leaks, where one of the biggest financial leaks in Nigeria has been what is called the tax incentive for holiday or holiday tax for investors, because there is a claim that people who come to invest in Nigeria are given more tax lineage, hence you find that there is no much taxing of the people who come in who could be living more on the economy.
Let's talk about this Niger Delta amnesty, which comes to an end this year. I mean, what would be the implications there?
Well, we do not anticipate negative implications as such, because most of this Niger Delta people Nigerians from the Niger Delta region, they were granted. Some of them were given free education. Some were given a free skill acquisition program, and we know that at this point, most of them, they've garnered enough experience and educational qualification to get into mainstream of the economy.
But that was not the reason why they were fighting.
Well, what is the main reason?
Oil. Okay.
Let us understand one thing. President Muhammad Buhari was the first chairman of the NNPC, Nigerian National Petroleum Corporation, when it was created in 1976 under President Olusegun Obasanjo. And like I earlier stated, he has got experience, he has got the wherewithal, and he has got the goodwill of the people to ensure that most of these crises and challenges that is being faced by Nigerians is squarely addressed.
Okay. Hold the thought there. Jean-Pierre, you're calling us from Pretoria?
Yes, hello.
Yes.
Yes, sir. Yeah, my name is Jean-Pierre. It's a French name.
Okay. Go ahead.
Well, what I heard from, since the guy, I'm so glad, but first of all, the guy, I think he will handle it out because he has a background of military, and I think he knows and what he's doing. We should give him a chance, like everyone in Africa. We should learn also as well what he has done, and Jonathan, and things like that. But for me, I know for sure that he'll make it because he has a background from the military.
Okay, thanks very much. And maybe another question which I would perhaps refer you to is this North-South division, right? And Nigeria is so complicated that even within the South, there's South-South and South-West, you know, and South-East. How do you expect, or how would you expect the president to deal with those issues?
Nigeria is going further greatly. Let us understand something. We've come a very long way. Nigeria had their independence in 1960, and this is the first time an opposition leader defeated an incumbent president.
Yes.
And also, it's a historical fact that former President Jonathan Goodluck had to call President Muhammad Buhari to congratulate him, even before the whole votes were counted.
Yes.
And with that, you can see that the former president has given us something as a nation to consolidate on and move on further. And we are very confident that with President Buhari, having appreciated and acknowledged the fact that it's a new dawn in Nigeria, he will have to consolidate on those points to move the nation further.
Okay.
So in other words, what I'm trying to say is that the difference between the North and the South, the East and the West, it will all come back together. We all see ourselves as the same Nigerians, irrespective of our differences, but having a rallying person, a rallying point, a rallying figure in the President Muhammadu Buhari, which Nigerian electorate, the voters have expressed their confidence in. We believe that he is going to bring everybody together still.
Okay. What will it take for, I mean, there's thousands of Nigerians in South Africa, correct? What will it take for them to say, we want to go back and build Nigeria back home? Those who are not doing anything.
Well, what it takes is what we are saying now.
Okay.
It's about those challenges that were like outlined by the president in his inaugural speech.
Okay.
Those challenges which we are very confident about that he's going to address, which also most of our people through the organization, Nigerian Union South Africa, they express their concerns, they express what they need, what they want to see in the new Nigeria.
Thank you.
We also make sure that this information gets down to the presidency.
Unfortunately, we've run out of time. Thank you very much for the time.
Thank you.
That was Question Time for today. Have yourself a wonderful time. Goodbye.